तनयोस्तनयम् बुधोत्तमतां दधानं कुर्वे सदा हृदि गुरुं करुणाकराख्यं लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भां नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दैकसिन्धोर्रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये मातापिता युवतयस्तनया विभूतिः सर्वं यदेव नियमेन मदन्वयानाम् आद्यस्य नः कुलपतेर्वकुलाभिरामं श्रीमत्तदङ्घ्रियुगलं प्रणमामि मूर्ध्ना भूतं सरश्च महदाह्वय भट्टनाथ श्रीभक्तिसारकुलशेखरयोगिवाहान् भक्ताङ्घ्रिरेणुपरकालयतीन्द्रमिश्रान् श्रीमत्पराङ्कुशमुनिं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यं श्रीमान् वेङ्कटनाथार्यः कवितार्किककेसरी वेदान्ताचार्यवर्यो मे सन्निधत्तां सदा हृदि. In the previous lecture, we saw about the Indriyas. We said they are divided into two types, Karmendriya and Jnanendriya. So, Chakshu, Karna, Ityadi being Jnanendriyas, and Vak, Pani, and so on being Karmendriyas. And we said we should not mistake these for the physical organs that we have. The Jnanendriyas, although in English the slide calls it as eyes, whatever is described as the eye by the doctor, is that what is called as Indriya? No. We saw that this is more subtle. These are subtle elements which help us to perceive. How do they help us to perceive? By operating the organ. The Jnanendriya operates the organ. Okay. So ear is there, but what operates the ear? The Jnanendriya. What is Jnanendriya controlled by? Manas. Likewise, Karmendriya controls our organs. What is it controlled by? It is controlled by the mind. Manas, it controls the Indriya, and the Indriya gives the command. Understand it that way. Should the Indriya be treated as a separate entity who listens to Manas at times and does not listen? Clearly, these 10 Indriyas are different from Manas. They are different from the mind and are controlled by the mind usually. Why should I say usually? A person who is very sick and bedridden, maybe they cannot speak, maybe they cannot move their hands. They might want to, but they might not be able to do. We are not considering that. We are talking about a healthy being. For a healthy person, all of these should ideally be controllable by the mind. Okay. That is how it works. If it is not under the control of the mind, it means there is a problem. So by default, it should be under the control of the mind. Can the Indriya reject something that Manas tells? The Indriya cannot reject. The organ can reject. I said the Indriya is not the organ, remember. The Indriya is not the organ. You could call it an organ, but it is a subtle organ. Okay. These words are also used for the organs. Therefore, we should be a little cautious. We should be a little cautious there. Now let us move on to Akasha. All of these Indriyas, right, they are supposed to be Sukshma. These 10 Indriyas, along with Manas, which is the mind is also called an Indriya. If you include the mind, how many would you get? You would get 11. So, 5 Karmendriyas, 5 Jnanendriyas, and 1 mind. Total you have 11 Indriyas. This is the classification system used in Vishishtadvaitha. So, there is a shloka in Tatvamukta Kalapa. सूक्ष्माण्येकादशाक्षाण्यपि न यदि कथं देहतो निष्क्रमादिः चित्ताणुत्वे तु सर्वेन्द्रियसमुदयने धीक्रमोऽप्यस्तु मानम् वृत्त्याक्षा वृत्त्याक्ष्यादेर्दवीयः प्रमितिजनकता वृत्तिराप्यायनार्थैः भू भूतैर्जातः प्रसर्पश्रुतिमितमपि चानन्त्यमेषां स्वकार्यैः. Basically, these 11 indriyas, karmendriyas, jnanendriyas, and manas, these are small, they are sukshma. Sukshman ekadashani. Now, they cannot be called vibhu. Vibhu means which is spread out everywhere. We cannot call them as vibhu. Okay. If they are vibhu, if they are pervasive, some people say they exist everywhere. There are some schools that say indriyas exist everywhere. Then there are some schools that say indriyas operate all over the body. We are saying it is neither. It is sukshma. Okay. If it is assumed to be vibhu, then after death, what would happen? What happens when a person dies? The body remains there. The body remains there. The jiva, the jivatma, what happens to it? It travels out of the body. This is said by the Vedas. If some other scripture had said, we could have ignored. But the Vedas themselves have declared that when you die, Atma does not have death. Najayate mriyate va. It comes not just in Bhagavad Gita, it also comes in the Upanishad. So, there is no death for the Atma. After you die, your Atma will move to another body. It will move to another loka. It will do all of that, but it will not die. Now, when the Atma leaves the body, along with it, the Indriyas will also go. This is the statement of the Veda. And this is the reason why we said that these Indriyas should not be assumed to be the physical macro organs. When a person dies, do you see the eyes disappearing and then flying in the sky? Do you see the nose disconnecting and flying in the sky? You don't see any of that, right? We don't see any of that happening. So the macro organs that are part of the physical body, they are going to remain. But the Indriyas travel. It has been said so by the Veda. Therefore, we have to understand that these are not referring to the macro organs, firstly. Secondly, these are not referring to certain special entities that are omnipresent or are present throughout the body. That is not so. Okay. It should be very clear to us. So in this shloka, Swami Deshika says, they cannot be vibhu because if an omnipresent entity cannot be declared as leaving one place and going to another. But the Veda says Indriyas leave the body and start traveling. Therefore, they cannot be vibhu and they should not be assumed to be the physical organs. What we assume when we say ears, tongue, and so on, that is not being referred to by the Indriya. For the mind, another example could also be given to illustrate that it is not macro. How could we explain it? Let us see. This mind, right? Of course, it cannot be seen, but Is it something that is unseen and spread out or not? That is the question, right? First we said it cannot be seen, it is not the physical organ. The second question was, is it pervading, all pervasive? We said no, it is not all pervasive. So now, to explain that the mind is not all pervasive, we have to understand that knowledge, any kind of knowledge or perception that you get, how are you getting these perceptions? You are getting the perceptions through these jnanendriyas, correct? Jnanendriya is what gives you the perception. You can see in the slide. Mind by itself is not giving knowledge. Mind gives you knowledge through perception, correct? How do you get knowledge? I heard my teacher speak, therefore I got knowledge. I read the book with my eyes, therefore I got knowledge. I smelled fragrance, therefore I realized there is a flower. That is how it works. So, mind operates only with the help of these indriyas, correct? If mind is bigger, then if mind is supposed to be bigger and pervasive, what would happen? If that mind is spread out, pervasive means what? Spread out. If mind is spread out, it would mean that at the same time, it will be able to be mixed with eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, everything at the same time. That would result in lots of informations coming at the same time to us. But it does not happen that way. Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example. I remember reading somewhere that onions and potato have the same taste. Their smells are different. Onion has a smell that repels me from it. And the smell is such that it also causes tears in the eyes. Taste-wise, it is supposed to be having the same taste. Although its shape is different, it comes off as a different feel. The feeling that you have of the solid will be different, but the exact taste that it produces is supposed to be the same. I read it that way. I don't, as far as my memory remembers, it was potato, maybe with something else, but whatever. But when you taste it, if you are really going to eat it, what does science say? It will say, no, no, you will experience a totally different taste. Why? Because when it comes to food, the smell will also influence the taste. The smell is also going to influence the taste. It is said in this way by science. So, you are experiencing one feeling, which is taste, based on multiple inputs. That is possible. Which inputs? The feeling that your tongue has and the smell that your nose is getting in. That is possible. But from a single input, at a given point of time, can you have multiple reactions? You cannot. From a single input, maybe just sight, can you have multiple reactions at the same time? You cannot. This is because manas, mind as an indriya, can operate along with only one other indriya at a time. At a time, the mind can mix only with one indriya. This is proof that mind is not pervasive. It is not pervading through all of these indriyas. It is coordinating with these. And that is done one at a time. May look like a lot of science, but this science is part of Sanatana Dharma. And it is quite important. Lots of schools have lots of definitions for indriyas. How many indriyas are there? Why should I accept 11? Why can't I say 7? Why can't I say some other number? There are so many different schools. So how each school explains is important to understand. These will eventually make the difference come in interpretation of important scriptures. Now some people are asking, I as the organ, maybe as the organ it is limited. It is of a specific size in your body as a physical organ, right? We agree that chakshu is not that physical organ. But why should we accept that it is so tiny? We will say I is vibhu, sorry, chakshu. Chakshurindriya is vibhu. How do we say it? What is the basis for saying it? Very simple. Look, outside of my body, the indriya is contained in my body, right? Outside of my body, I can see things. I can see a table in front of me. Beyond the table, I am able to see a chair. Beyond the chair, I am able to see a window. Beyond the window, some distance away from my building, I am able to see a tree. Beyond the tree, I am able to see a road. How far is my vision traveling? 300 meters? Some number, some distance. Essentially, Chakshu is helping me to observe something that is at a distance and understand what it is. Several meters away from me, whatever is there, I am able to understand it. How am I able to understand it? It means Chakshu Indriya is there also, right? Chakshu should be Vibhu. Chakshu should be Vibhu. It should be omnipresent. It is everywhere. It is there as well. Therefore, that knowledge is coming to me. Some people argued in that way. But what did the Vishishtadvaitins say? These people, they said, see, if the Indriya had been small, we wouldn't have been able to see things that are far away. If it had been just a part of our body, then how would it be able to travel that distance and understand what is there? That is the Purva Paksha. So the answer is, look, there is something more. Look at the science inside Vishishtadvaita. It explains science. What does science teach us? Science says you have nothing that belongs to you that far away. But in reality, there is something called light. Light that is hitting the object that far away. After hitting that object, it travels towards you. It comes to your eye, and therefore you perceive that object. This is the teaching of science. And this is the teaching of Vishishtadvaita as well. So, the Chakshu is an Indriya. It is not there that far away from me. However, it is taking the help of Tejas. It is taking the help of Tejas. Rays of light are there. When you look, there are signals that travel. The direction that you're looking, there, you start perceiving that area. In that area, light hits that object and then comes to you. This is called vritti of the eye. This is how the eye functions. So, Chakshurindriya is not everywhere. We should not take it as vibhu. We say it is taking the help of something else that is not even an indriya. It is taking the help of tejas. That light goes, hits the object, comes to the eye, and is interpreted by the Chakshurindriya, which is under the control of the mind. This is how we should understand it. Now comes another question. In the Vedas, there is one place where it is said that there are infinite indriyas. Why does the Veda have to do it? Huh? Can't it be clear? Can't it say one thing at a time? This Veda is always problematic. At one place, the Veda will say the Almighty is formless. At one place, it will say the Almighty has a form. The Veda, at one place, it will say there is one supreme being. At another place, it will say there are many supreme beings. The Veda will say he is never moving, never doing anything. The same Veda will say he is doing everything. He is everywhere. Is the Veda not a bunch of contradictions? It is not a bunch of contradictions, but it has a lot of complex statements. The Veda is not meant to give us direct information. Here and there, it will give us direct information. Satyam Vada, Dharmam Chara, very clear, direct information. Speak the truth. But there are places where it would not be so straight. It would be complicated. Why? So that knowledge comes to the worthy. Knowledge is not for all. Knowledge should go to the worthy people. If nuclear science is learned by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, he would use it to build the country, to help the poor, to develop the country for the good of humanity. If the same nuclear science is taught to some terrorist, he would build nuclear weapons and nuke the world. So, there is this concept of adhikara, the right to learn. Who should learn what? Whatever you are fit to learn, you should learn. Who decides who is fit and who is not fit? Who am I to decide? The Shastras decide. Bhagavan decides. On what basis does Bhagavan decide? On the basis of our karma. If we have not done proper karma, we will not be able to receive the correct knowledge. And we have seen this in the past. Correct? What did we see? We saw that proper knowledge comes only through Guru. We saw that Guru comes only when you have proper karma. Did we see or did we not? Yes, we saw it. There was a shloka of Rasya Trayasara that we saw a few classes ago, where we said, Shadetani hi Acharya Prapti Hetavaha. These six are the causes of Acharya Prapti. So, you need some good karma. Based on that, you get to realize. The Vedic statements are complicated, yet the Veda is 100% correct. It is 100% correct. If you could say 200, then 200% correct. Infinite percent correct. Call it that way. It is a matter of whether we understand it correctly or not. So, accepting the divine eternal Veda as correct. Remember, the Veda is eternal. There are many people who say the Vedas came to us 5,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago, 2,000 years ago. And there are people who say such nonsensical things. In reality, the Vedas are eternal. This is the view of Vedavyasa himself. Vedavyasa did not create the Vedas, he compiled the Vedas. Veda is eternal. This eternal Veda, it is accepted as eternal by the Advaiti, Vishishtadvaitha, Dvaiti, everybody. All the Vedikas, all the Vedantin accept it. Those who do not accept, those who do not accept, those who say, no, 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 Veda has destruction, Veda came only 5,000 years ago. Those kinds of people who do not acknowledge the validity of the Veda throughout the existence of the universe and think that it got created at some point of time. They are very modern interpreters. Some of these modern interpreters might be coming from abroad. Some might not even be belonging to Sanatana Dharma. Some might be just some social media influencers. Some might have traditional backgrounds and might have still gone away from the path and therefore made such mistakes. But we should be careful. Now, acknowledging the Veda as perfect is fine. Given that we accept Veda, we accept Vedanta, everything. But now, when the Veda says there are infinite indriyas, and then you are saying, no, 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 there are just 5 karmendriyas, 5 jnanendriyas, and 1 manas. Ekadashendriyani. How is it fair? That cannot be fair. Maybe the Veda is trying to say, when it says that indriyas are ananta, maybe the Veda is trying to say, first of all, if it says there are infinite indriyas, it is impossible. So you have to, understanding that the Veda is correct, you have to interpret the Vedic statement in a way that makes it sound correct, in a way that makes it logical. So let us make it logical. Let us say by anantaha, it is not talking about the number of indriyas. In fact, they never talked about the number of indriyas as ananta. Do you know? They said that these indriyas are spread without an end. Therefore, they should be accepted as vibhu. This was presented as a counter by some Purva Pakshi. You are saying, no, Vedas say, you are saying as per the Vedas, Indriyas get out of the body. We are saying as per the Vedas, Indriyas are Vibhu. Now you counter our citation. The explanation of that Vedic statement is therefore very important. So, if you look at the number of times actions are performed by these Indriyas, they are infinite. The eye, referring to the Indriya here, Chakshu, it is one. But how many times does it operate? How many times does the eye operate? The Indriya. keeps operating all the time. As long as my organ is active, the Indriya is active. It keeps working. Correct? Even the tongue keeps tasting. You don't feel taste because you're used to the taste of air. When there is only air to taste, there is still the taste of air. So the Indriyas function infinite times. That is what is implied by the term infinity in the Vedas in the context of the Indriyas. A man who does the work of 100 men, who does 100 different types of work, or who works 100 times, so much. A person who works so much, you know, like there are certain CEOs of IT companies who say, you should work for much longer. You should work for more hours a day. You should work for more days a week. Then there are some who say, no, 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 time is not important. Productivity is not important. It is okay if you work less, but you should work smart. Now let us assume there is an employee who is smart, who is working well, but is also working all the time. He works for 12 hours, 14 hours every day, for 7 days a week. That dedicated. What would you say? Look at him. He does the work of 100 people. This one man, is equal to 100 people. He is equal to 100 people. We use these kinds of terminologies, right? When I say he is equal to 100 people, does it mean he has 100 bodies? No. What he does is the work of 100 people. Therefore, we say he is 100 people. In that sense, in that metaphorical sense, the Veda has declared that the Indriyas are Ananta. We should understand it that way. So, the other statement of the Veda can be reconciled with it by saying, no, no, they are indeed small. Therefore, they leave the body when the life goes away. But Ananta, it is said because their actions are uncountably large in number. That is how we should understand it. Some people started arguing. See, Chakshu, Karna, and so on, they can sometimes inform us about entities that have nothing to do with them. How is that possible? Hmm? The answer is that eyes, ears, and so on, they let us perceive only those things that are connected or related in some way or the other. What relation is it here? Let me give you an example. There is a visible range of light, right? Visible wavelengths. Likewise, in sound, there are audible decibels. We say you can hear, the human can hear from decibels to 20,000 decibels. What happens if it is below 20? We cannot hear. What happens if it is above 20,000? We cannot hear. So for the eye to see, the eye does not see everything. The eye does not see everything. I see a table a few feet in front of me. There is air in between. There is oxygen, carbon dioxide, whatever. I am not able to see it. The eye does not see everything. The eye sees those that are related to the eye. How are they related? They have a special connection that makes them visible. The visible wavelengths of light are coming from them. and therefore we are able to perceive them. The audible levels of sound are coming to our ears, therefore we are able to hear them. So there is some relationship. Your capability, right? There is a level of capability of your indriya that is matched by the entity outside. Entities that match this level will be observed, will be not perceived. It is as simple as that. When light hits my eye, I am able to perceive. But when the same light hits, do I perceive? When light hits my skin, I don't perceive it. When light hits my eye, I perceive it. Right? There is a difference between the eye and the skin. But what is happening? The skin can feel the wind, it can feel touch, but it cannot feel the touch of light. It can feel only the touch of those things that it can feel. So there is some sambandha. So only those entities that are related are perceived and understood by us. Light creates a relationship between I and the object. Sound creates a relationship between ears and the source of sound. So something or the other is always there to create this association. Where this associator is blocked, the ability of the indriya to perceive will also get blocked. When I look outside, I see a wall. Beyond the wall, what is there? I cannot see. Why? The wall is associated with me by the light that is hitting the wall and then coming to my eye. But beyond the wall, that is not happening. Light is not able to pass through the wall. The wall is opaque, it is not transparent. And therefore, due to this lack of association, I am unable to see what is in front of the wall. Whatever is in front of the wall might actually be something visible, right? Falling in the visible wavelengths of light. But I still cannot see it. Why? Simply because the associator is gone. So, firstly, association depends on your capability, the organ's capability. Secondly, it depends on the capability of the associator. This is what helps us to perceive what is there in front of us. So, if you are going to say that non-associated entities are also perceivable by the eye, then you should say, okay, what is there in America? I should be able to see sitting in India. What is there on Mars? I should be able to see sitting here. Why am I not able to see? Something is there which is absent in this case, but present where I'm able to see a table or tree or wall in front of me. That is very important. So this claim by certain schools of Buddhism that the indriyas, the jnanendriyas, have the ability to perceive things that are not at all associated with them, that is rejected by us. So some people said, let us take the example you gave about the wall. Whatever is behind the wall, your eye cannot see, right? Can we say that that entity which is beyond the wall, let us say beyond the wall, there is a mango tree. The mango tree that is beyond the wall is not visible to me because it has lost its ability to be perceivable by my eye. Can we say so? We said, no, no, no. This ability has nothing to do with that entity. What is seen, yes, it should have certain properties. But beyond that, the more important thing is the perceivability of the perceiver. I am the one who is seeing. My eye should have the property. So that mango tree has been the mango tree all the time. When I went and stood near it, I was able to see it. When I went far away from it beyond the wall, I was unable to see it. Has anything changed in the mango tree? Nothing has changed in the mango tree. The mango tree was the same. In the morning, I was there under it trying to pluck a mango. At that time, the tree was visible. Now I am at home, beyond the wall, beyond the fence. I am not able to see it. Nothing has changed in the tree, except for perhaps the mango that I took. But if I am unable to see it right now, it is because my eye has lost the ability to see it. Why? Because the eye depends on the associator, that is light, and the light depends on the level of transparency of entities that it passes through. And it cannot pass through the wall. That is how we should understand it. So, this is how we should understand it. In Buddhism, there are many schools. In ancient days, four fundamental schools were discussed: Sautrantika, Vaibhashika, Yogachara, and Madhyamika. Out of these four, Madhyamika, the original teaching of Madhyamika, used to be that everything is Shunya. Not to be confused with Advaita. Advaita accepts the Atma. Eventually, Madhyamika also got certain subsects and additions and so on. We are not going to look at Madhyamika here. But as per Madhyamika, these are not existing, whatever is in front of us. The other three schools are called schools that indulge in Kshanikavada. They believe in Kshanikatvam. Yogachara believes in the existence of knowledge and perception alone, not in the entity. Vaibhashika and Sautrantika say these entities, they get created and destroyed continuously, every instant. Yogachara says the perception keeps on traveling. The perception exists, but the entity does not exist. But the perception also, every instant there is a new perception. Hence, they are called schools that talk about Kshanikavada. But these entities that exist, right? Ones that are seen, ones that are heard, and so on. In every Kshana, they behave in the same way. The table that is in front of me in this second is behaving in the exact same way the next second. Even among living beings, there is consistency. Correct? There is a very good consistency. So, entities, new entities are created in every instant, or new illusions are created in every instant. That is the claim of these three schools. One of the two will be the claim of these three schools. Yogachara saying the latter, Sautrantika Vaibhashika saying the former. So, they have a further problem in their explanation. They cannot explain how an entity that is qualified to be perceived can create an entity that is no longer qualified to be perceived. In the morning, the mango tree had the ability to be perceived. In the evening, when there's a wall separating me and the mango tree, how did the tree lose the ability? No, it is not the same tree, correct? This tree was created by the previous tree, the tree of the previous instance. That is their school. In their school, every instant, the entity is recreated. So, how did a tree which had the ability to be perceived by me end up creating in the next instant a version of itself that cannot be perceived by me? This is a big drawback. Shavada has 100 drawbacks. This is one drawback. Simply because their school says that it is not our Indriya that has the ability to perceive, but the entity outside that has perceivability. We said, yes, there is indeed something called perceiving that depends on the associator. We have not acknowledged, we have not rejected perceivability of the entity. But we are saying that the I has the ability to perceive. That is the more important thing that we should consider. So, this view of these schools of Buddhism are rejected. What about the ear? How is the ear able to hear? This could be explained with ease. Like how Chakshu is associated with Tejas, Karna is associated with Shabda. Where there is Shabda, where there is Shabda, sound, or an entity that generates sound waves, creates sound waves, whatever. That will help us to hear. This Indriya is also inside our body only. It is the Shabda that travels, just like how we said light travels, sound travels. So the Shabda comes and reaches the Indriya. Therefore, we are able to hear. Whatever is far away comes to us later. Whatever is closer by comes to us sooner. This difference can be observed in a better way when we stand at the railway station looking at a train that is horning while coming towards us and then going away. It is called Doppler effect. This Doppler effect was well known to our philosophers centuries before the Europeans. One of the many, many things that was known to our philosophers. So, this has been explained by Swami Deshika in Tattva Kalapa. See how much science is there. The exact location and the exact distance. Can we understand that through the ears? We cannot. We need some amount of logical reasoning for it. Or we need to associate it with some other indriya or some other piece of knowledge. We can, to an approximate level, try to understand. That's it. This is how we should understand. Now, these two explanations that are given, one that is said by the Sankhya people, and one that is said by the Nyaya people. Both are fine. Sankhya says that your hearing ability spreads and extends to the distance. Understand it as the sound waves going and coming, said the Nayayikas. Both are fine. You take the first one metaphorically, the second one literally. It becomes scientific. So, we are scientific. There is no issue. But there is more to learn, not just about these indriyas, but outside of these indriyas also. So far, we have been talking about entities that are small, occupying specific regions in the body. There could be something that is well spread out. What is it? Let us take the example of Akasha. Akasha, which is often translated as ether. You would have seen me translate it as space. Ether has 100 different definitions. Why to get into it and get confused? Use the word space. It's easier. Akasha, how is it as per Vishishtadvaitha? We should look at that. And it is important to look at that as well. Why? Because so far, whenever the Purva Paksha said, no, it is well spread out, it is Vibhu. We said it is not spread out, it is not Vibhu. Now, when they are saying in a different way, we are saying it is spread out and it is existing everywhere. Why are we doing that with space alone? Why should space alone exist everywhere, whereas the others are not? This we will see in the next class. So if you have any question based on whatever was discussed today, please let me know. If not, we will conclude the session.
Swami, I have one doubt.
Yes.
About this Shanikavada, you say that, can you please explain it a bit more? There
Oh,
are many.
see, traditionally, okay, see, by the time of Swami Deshika, there were about 44 schools of Buddhism. When I searched online, I got a list of 60 schools of Buddhism. But during the days of Vyasa, during the days of Vyasa, remember Veda Vyasa came 5,000 years ago, right?
Yeah,
He lived 5,000 years ago, approx.
yeah.
There was already a school of Buddhism existing back then. Which Buddhism was it? The Buddhism that began in the previous Kali Yuga. In the previous Kali Yuga, Vishnu had taken the avatar of Buddha in a Brahmana family, correct?
Mhm.
He is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. You can see he was a different Buddha than the Buddha that we are talking about, who was born 2000 years ago. So the Buddhism of
Yeah.
today came 2000 years ago. But the Buddhism that we are talking about is the more ancient Buddhism, which
Mhm.
which divided into four based on four shishyas of that Buddha. That Buddha Avatara, he had four shishyas. Each one of them created a different variant of the school. These schools are called Sautrantika, Vaibhashika, Yogachara, and Madhyamika. Madhyamika talks about Sarvashunyavada. The modern Madhyamika would be different. If you go and open that Madhyamika Karika, or maybe they call it Madhyamaka Karika, I don't remember. It would not match with the description of Madhyamika school that is mentioned by our acharyas. Because what we are saying is a different Bauddha, what they are saying is a different Bauddha. There are certain people on social media. I remember seeing some Buddhist influencers coming and saying, look, you have misinterpreted Buddhism. None of your acharyas ever understood Buddhism properly. This is not what our acharyas said. Why have you lied? Their acharyas are different. Their Buddhism is different. The Buddhism that we are referring to is different. There is a difference between these two. The Buddha from 2000 years ago was a Kshatriya born, right? He was born to a king. Not to be confused with the Buddhavatara of Bhagavan. So that Buddhavatara taught Bauddha, from which four schools emerged: Sautrantika, Vaibhashika, Yogachara, and Madhyamika. The first three are called as the schools of Kshanikavada. According to them, existence of entities are not continuous, is not continuous. Existence is instantaneous. Every instant, it comes and disappears. Let me give you an example. You look at a candle, okay? Or you look at diya, the traditional lamp. You look at the lamp. You can see a fire, right? Is it one fire? Is it one flame? Look at it carefully. You will see only one flame. But in reality, it is not one flame. Every instant, a new flame is coming up. But it is happening so rapidly that you observe only one flame. Do you understand? The change is
Yes,
happening so rapidly, and it is also consistent in shape, right? You don't see it so small in one instant and then a huge explosion the next. That doesn't happen. So due to rapid change and consistent reshaping, you are consistent reshaping to the older shape. You are experiencing it as though it is a single flame. So this is the example given by one of their schools to explain Kshanikavada. They said, just like that flame, everything goes in and out of existence. We questioned them, of course. For the flame to behave that way, it is consuming fuel. You tell me what is disappearing. The flame, I'm perceiving the flame as one, but the flame is many because it is consuming the fuel, right? It is consuming the ghee or oil or wax if you are using a modern candle, whatever. So is being consumed. And that we can see the difference. So what is being consumed here? There are, you cannot equate, right? Just because the flame is happening that way, can you apply the same logic to the ghee? You cannot apply the same logic. Correlation is not causation. Those issues are there. Yogacara school said, perception keeps getting created every instant, or perceivability keeps getting created every instant. Because Yogacharas believed only in the existence of jnana alone. They believed in the existence of jnana alone. Bhagavad Ramanuja says, jnana matra astitvavadino yogacharaha pratyavatishthante. This is how he introduces the yogacharas in Shri Bhashya. Jnana matra astitvavadina. They accept the existence of jnana alone. Who? Yogacharas. The other two, Vaibhashikas and Sautrantikas, they accept a very, very, what do you say, instantaneous existence of entities, like the flame. The flame actually exists. It is not the perception of the flame, but the actual flame, but the flame exists only for an instant. In that way, you should treat everything else as well. This is their school. This is the reason why this kind of illogical reason is the illogical explanation is the reason why Vedavyasa rejected them. And because Vedavyasa rejected them, Adi Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbarkacharya, Vallabhacharya, everybody had to reject them. The confusion happens because 2000 years ago, when Siddhartha was coming, the way he spoke, the way he taught people, everybody remembered the Buddha avatar and started calling him Buddha. He did not call himself, he did not declare himself one fine day to be Buddha. He did not do that. He did not go out and say, oh, look, I am Buddha. I am the avatar of Vishnu. Come listen to me. He never said that. But due to similar names, there is confusion. Buddha is referenced in Ramayana and Mahabharata as well. But that is the Buddha of the previous Kali Yuga, in which these four schools had come. So schools of modern Buddhism when I say modern, I'm referring to the one that came 2000 years ago of the present Kali Yuga. Schools of that Buddhism which were anywhere similar to these immediately got called by similar names. That created a lot of confusion. We should be very careful when assessing schools. Which school says what? But I hope my answer gave you some clarity.
Yes, Swami. There is one small doubt. While I was reading Valmiki Ramayana, at that time there was a rishi like, who told, who says Rama about why are you so bothered about Dasratha and all. He
Dabaji.
gave
Dabaji
something
Ayodhya
around,
says that.
and yes, at that time he refuted and say the Bodha. He also says about that Bodha also, that Ayodhya kingdom. So at that time also, Bodhas are there at Treta Yuga.
I'm telling you, Buddhas were there before. You see, Buddha avatar of Bhagavan has been taken so many times. Once you start associating them with the modern 2000-year-old Buddhism, you will get into mistake after mistake.
Oh,
That is very important. Okay.
yes.
The
Uh,
original schools of Buddha and Jaina, they are extremely ancient.
mhm.
We acknowledge that they are extremely ancient. They call themselves extremely ancient. We also say, yes, yes, you are extremely ancient. Our modern Western and Westernized Indian historians, they have mixed everything up. That is their problem. Tomorrow they will say Buddhi is a feminine form of Buddha. They might say any nonsense. What can we do?
Okay. So there is another doubt. In previous classes, you said that Shiva is like, Devta har, where, matlab, Devta are sattvic in nature, as Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna also
No, I
says.
did not say devatas are sattvic in nature. I said sattvic people worship devatas by nature. Yajante sattvika devan. You have not heard it properly. Please go through the recording again.
Oh, okay.
The devas, Baddhas, they also have sattva, rajas, tamas, all the three gunas. Okay. They have all the three gunas. But yajante sattvika devan, that is the statement of Krishna.
Okay. Uh, why Shiva is associated with tamas, like,
Who?
mm, Shiva.
He controls that. No, Tamoguna is associated with destruction. He controls destruction of the entire universe. Therefore, he is associated with it. He
Okay.
also falls under Yajante Satvika Devan only. Remember this.
Mm,
Even Srila Prabhupada in his commentary, that Bhagavad Gita as it is, there also you will see under Yajante Satvika Devan, he has mentioned Shiva. Satvik people worship
mhm.
deities. Who are the Shiva is called Mahadeva, right? We look at the types of terms that are used to refer to him: Deva Deva, Mahadeva, so on.
Yes, yes.
Now, does it mean that
I
only
got it
Sattvic
now.
people worshipped him? Then don't ask me, oh, then how did Ravana worship Shiva? Was he Sattvic? No. When we say Sattvic people worship Devas, it does not mean that Tamasic people will not worship Devas. But Sattvic people will not worship evil beings. That is the teaching. Pretan Bhutaganan Shanye Yajante Tamasa Jana. That is something that Sattvic people will never do. So please go through the old recording properly. You will understand what I have said. Okay.
Thank you. I got it.
I will conclude here. Thank you so much for attending. Shriyatham Saraswati Kaustubhasya Shivas Raghav Rottanim Patasya Vidyavapi Bhautamataam Dadhanam Pravesdardigum Pranamatarakhyam Kavitarka Simhaya Kalyana Gunashalini Himate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha